Hello, fellow humans. There's a wide spectrum of ideas, from the far left to the far right, about how capitalism can save us from poverty, from wars, from the climate crisis. One such idea is called progressive capitalism. It's promoted by Joseph Stiglitz, former chief economist of the World Bank and chairman of the US Council of Economic Advisors. Joseph Stiglitz is one of the good guys. He means really well. He won the Nobel Prize in Economics for proving how markets cannot be stable without regulation, and markets are never efficient. That's because economic agents do not have the equal information for their decisions. This is the theory of markets with asymmetric information. He has also shown how the GDP does not provide an accurate measurement of the economy. By European standards, progressive capitalism would be somewhere in the center of the political spectrum, and by American standards, it would be somewhere on the left, certainly nowhere near the center. In Stiglitz's words, progressive capitalism, or a rejuvenated social democracy, puts the well-being of all citizens at its center and goes beyond material goods to incorporate a sense of security and freedom. It takes human flourishing as the objective of our economic and social system, which includes citizens leading meaningful and creative lives. Good health, education, and a certain level of material well-being and security are necessary, but not sufficient for this. We sometimes forget, but the economy is supposed to serve society, not the other way around. This sounds great. Weren't we supposed to have all of that already as promised under capitalism? Stiglitz claims, and I agree with him, that the current version of capitalism, widely known as neoliberal capitalism, which has been in place roughly since 1980, is incapable of providing all that well-being and good life. Why is it incapable? Because it is a self-defeating system that is designed to collapse from within. We live with more wealth and income inequality, in contradiction to the promises of the system. This is how neoliberal capitalism compares to progressive capitalism, according to Stiglitz. Basically, the idea is this. Neoliberal capitalism says the markets are the best way to fix all the problems. Progressive capitalism says we need markets, but they are very inefficient and broken. So we also need a lot of smart regulation to make everything work. That's the traditional Scandinavian-style social democracy in a nutshell. To kick off the debate between the two opposing systems, Stiglitz talks about freedom. His formula is, one person's freedom is another's unfreedom. A perfect example is the Second Amendment to the US Constitution that places the rights of one group, gun owners, above what the most others would consider a more fundamental right, the right to live. This is an example of an externality, which is the action taken by some people that negatively affect others. When there are adverse externalities, if certain actions are backed up by legal rights, then those actions will take away other people's freedom. At the same time, some version of coercion can actually enhance everyone's freedom. Stoplights are a perfect regulation, easily enforced, that allow drivers to take turns going through an intersection. In their absence, there would be gridlock or accidents. Everyone would be worse off. Stoplights are a kind of coercion. Folks on the right also advocate strongly for freedom to contract. They want to enforce private contracts no matter how exploitative the agreement, so long as the contracts are entered into voluntarily. The argument is that you are fully responsible for doing your due diligence before entering a contract. It's your problem if you end up on the losing side. everyone for themselves. The smartest cookie wins. The smart con deserves the rewards. No surprise then why libertarian think tanks lie about what economic freedom actually is. Are we entitled to keep all the income and all the wealth from doing a successful business in a market? Even if the markets were completely fair and transparent, where rules applied equally to everyone, even then, there's no clear moral justification for keeping all the wealth we obtain from playing in the market. Why is that? Because of externalities, because of how excessive rewards limit the freedom of others. Since markets are so flawed, they are not delivering on the promise, which is to satisfy human needs. Precisely because of these flaws, markets require significant regulation and guidance to function properly and deliver their promises. In the book, Stiglitz unpacks many ideas. The free rider problem. Why is taxation important and necessary? Why libertarians are wrong? How the right misunderstands externalities? Why public institutions are the ones that should regulate public goods? How property is a social construction with natural limits? How many contracts are immoral and should not be enforced? How many profits are made by exploiting consumers through price discrimination? How competition always favors the already powerful? How fossil fuels executives are incentivized to favor their shareholders over the destruction of livable environment? How the imperfections in human psychology affect economic behavior in a bad way? How social cohesion is the opposite of social coercion and is often misunderstood. See, for example, the ruckus about refusing to get the COVID-19 vaccine that was thought to be government coercion. He talks about why is it so important how wealth is obtained, whether legally or illegally. Why the marketplace of ideas is a corrupted concept because we don't operate with full transparency. Why we believe in neoliberalism because the elites control the media. How the poor countries are being kept poor by the rich through international institutions like the IMF. Why economic rents are so pervasive and bad. Why we need moral guidelines such as justice as fairness to guide our economic thinking. And now the critique. Yes to the following. Progressive capitalism can make our lives a little better. Markets are very unreliable to the point of even working against human needs. Wealth inequality is too high. The ruling class has too much power. While all these are true, progressive capitalism policies suggested by Stiglitz, see the fourth column in the table, are not addressing the fundamental design of capitalism. The model I suggested to describe capitalism links property, power, and capital through a number of doctrines. These doctrines function like a religion. They are not questioned. They are not debated in mainstream economics. These three doctrines, likely there are more, are proportionality. It gives us the principle of one share equals one vote in how most companies are incorporated. Dispossession allows corporations to take property such as land or personal data and use it as capital to make money. And hierarchies, which allows corporations to be organized in a feudal type pyramid of power where lower levels have zero influence over what happens above them. This whole system is pumped up to grow constantly without break and without limit. This design implodes without profit because it seeks to reward effort with wealth accumulation. Progressive capitalism is a weak proposal because it does not recognize the fundamental design of capitalism. Wealth inequality and massive power imbalances that exist today cannot be fixed from within the system that generates too often crashes, instability, information asymmetries, and exploitation. In fact, any version of capitalism, no matter what additional words we put in front of it, would fail to solve our deep problems with wealth inequality, power imbalances, and the climate crisis. Thank you for watching. If you want the elites to listen to these ideas and force the politicians to do right by the people, help us grow this channel. Subscribe, engage, spread the word so others can learn as well. Please support me if you can on Ko-fi or Patreon to make these videos possible. Okay, talk to you soon. Be well. Increase the peace.
We should grow beards.
We are getting out of trouble. We're going to shave.
Shave?
Shave.
At a time like this, those guys got machine guns ready to blast our heads off. You want to shave?
Shave our legs, stupid.
Shave our legs?